بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. Last time we talked about the name of Allah, Al-Ghani, and today we are going to talk about the names of Allah, Al-Noor and Al-Hadi. Al-Noor, it means the light, and it also means the illuminator, the one who gives light. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is the light, and from Him comes all light, both perceived and spiritual. So when we talk about the light of Allah, we talk about both the perceived as well as a spiritual light, which we will explain what that means. So light is something that is evident, and it makes everything else evident as well. So light is something that is visible, and it makes everything else visible. Light is something that is manifest. It manifests itself. When light comes, darkness goes away. So it manifests itself, and it makes everything else manifested. So Allah, He is the visible one, and everything else is made visible by virtue of His light. An-Noor is complemented with His name, Al-Zahir. And we mentioned what does Al-Zahir mean. We already covered that name. If you guys remember that series, Huwa al-Awwal wal-Akhir wal-Zahir wal-Batin. Those four names came together or comes together in the same verse of the Quran, where Al-Awwal, the first, Al-Akhir, the last, Al-Zahir, the apparent or the manifest one, okay? Al-Batin, the hidden one. So An-Noor is complemented. Remember, we mentioned that all of these names of Allah, they're not independent of one another, rather they complement one another. So An-Noor, it is complemented with His name, Al-Zahir. How does it complement it? Well, He manifests Himself fully in the heavens and the earth. How does one of the ways that Allah, He manifests Himself, we mentioned when we were talking about the name Al-Zahir, is through the signs of Allah. Through His signs, Allah, He manifests Himself. Now, another way Allah, He manifests Himself in the heavens and the earth is through His light. And He makes everything else visible and apparent. Likewise, An-Noor, He fills the universe with His light. And He brings it into existence. What does that mean? Allah, He says in the Quran, chapter 24, verse 35. Chapter 24, verse 35. Allahu nuru samawati wal ard. This is one of the most beautiful verses in the Quran. Allah, He says, Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth. And now a lot of the scholars, some of the Sahaba, they gave different meanings to what does it mean Allah is the light. Okay? Some said that He is the guidance. He's the one who guides those in the heavens and the earth, or He guides the heavens and the earth in terms of its rotation and whatnot. And we will cover Al-Hadi. So they gave the meaning of An-Noor as Al-Hadi, which is the next name. Right? And others said, no, it means the physical light. Allah, He is the light of the heavens and the earth. So Allah, He is free from the darkness of non-existence. Allah, He is He is existent, so He is free from the darkness of non-existence. And because Allah, He is An-Noor, He brings things from the darkness of non-existence to the light of existence. This is a bit, you have to kind of just pay attention and concentrate here a bit in order for you to fully grasp this. I'll say it again. He is free from the darkness of non-existence, meaning Allah, He exists. That's just what it means. Just another way or fancier way to say it, right? And Allah, He brings things from the darkness of non-existence to the light of existence. So now I'm giving an allegorical meaning to the name An-Noor. So over here I gave more of a physical meaning, not me, but this is what has been through an inductive reading of the name of Allah. We come to both the perceived, right? We mentioned Allah, from Him comes all light, both perceived and spiritual. So over here we talked about the perceived. Now over here we're talking about from the spiritual. So Allah, He is free from the darkness of non-existence, and He brings forth things from the darkness of non-existence to the light of existence. What does that mean? That means anytime something is illuminated, what happens? That thing comes into existence. Otherwise, it is as if it is non-existent. Does that make sense? So An-Noor, He illuminates the hearts and brings them from the darkness of disbelief to the light of belief. So this is another meaning of An-Noor, that He is the one who illuminates the hearts. And He illuminates it with guidance, so that way they are guided from darkness to the light of belief. Allah, He says in the same verse, okay, Allah, He says in the same verse, chapter 24, verse 35, Allah guides to His light whom He wills. يَهْدِ اللَّهُ لِنُورِهِ مَنْ يَشَاءُ. It's a long verse. اللَّهُ نُورُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ مَثَلُ نُورِهِ كَمِشْكَاةٍ فيها مصباح المصباح فيها زجاجة الزجاجة كأنها كوكب دري يوقد منها شجرة مباركة زيتونة لا شرقية ولا غربية يكاد زيتها يضيء ولو لم تمسسه نار نور على نور, light upon light. يهدي الله لنوره من يشاء. Allah guides to His light whom He wills. So those whose hearts have not been illuminated by the light of Allah are blind. Why? Because they cannot see. And the person who is blind, what does he see? He sees nothing but darkness. And so they cannot see the light of the guidance of Islam, the light of Allah, which He has manifested in the heavens and the earth, which He has manifested in His verses, in the signs. So these people who are deprived of the light of Allah, they live a life of total darkness and cannot distinguish what is good and evil. Just like a person who cannot distinguish, who's blind, who cannot distinguish what is good or what is evil for him. So if you were to give him, for example, water or poison, he wouldn't know the difference. He would not know the difference. If you were to give him copper or gold, he doesn't know what is good, what is beneficial, and what is not. He cannot tell the difference. So a person who has not been given the light of Islam, that person, he is living. Just look at the society in the world. What darkness are they literally? Just sometimes, I think, was it yesterday, I was just thinking about the darkness that these people are living in. Complete darkness. What Allah has made halal, they have made it completely haram. They are so, in societies like Germany and in the US, they are so against the concept of dhabiha, slaughtering. Maybe other countries too, but these two countries I know of personally. They are so against the concept of dhabiha, which is to slaughter an animal in a uh, in a proper manner by cutting his throat and his jugular veins with a sharp knife, saying the name of Allah while doing so. They are so against it. They have passed legislations that they cannot do that. The FDA, which is the Food and Drug Administration of the US, they will not certify a meat that has not been cut, that has not been stunned or killed that has not been killed by stunning or by killing with a bullet. They will not certify it. And that is their guidelines. That's how they need to go ahead. That's how, those are their guidelines. That's just one small little example. Their outlook or their definition of marriage, just complete darkness, complete misguidance. Whereas just 5 years ago, 7 years ago, the president and everyone, they were against these gay marriages. People have a right not to serve these people, yet they are being sued left and right, infringing on their rights. The point I'm making is that these people without the light, because if you don't have a guidance by which you live your life, how are you going to live your life? You're not even going to live your life as an animal, but you're going to live it worse than an animal. So they don't know without the light of Allah. They do not know what is good and evil. So their whole concept, their whole philosophy of life is live and let live. That's their whole, the pursuit of happiness, the pursuit of liberty, the pursuit of freedom. That is their philosophy. That's the philosophy in a nutshell of liberalism. And I promised you guys that I was going to do a talk, but never really got the chance to prepare for it. But in a nutshell, I'm not talking about from a political perspective, I'm talking about from a philosophical perspective, the meaning of liberalism, not a political liberal, because they are all, whether they are conservatives or so-called left or right-wing, they're all liberals from a philosophical perspective. So I'm not talking about it from a political perspective. From a philosophical perspective, they are all liberals. Why? Because the underlying definition of liberalism from a philosophical perspective is the pursuit of happiness. So whatever brings you happiness, we are going to pursue it. Whatever brings freedom and equality, we're going to go ahead and bring that. That is their moral compass. What is our compass? What is our philosophy? Whatever Allah tells us, whatever He has legislated for us, that is good for us. Whatever He has forbidden us from, that is harmful, that is evil for us, even if we cannot comprehend it. Even if we cannot comprehend it. So they are unable because they are living in total darkness. Now, if An-Noor does not guide them, then they will live in that darkness forever. Allah, He says in chapter 24, verse 40. So this is, by the way, chapter 24, who knows what is chapter 24? What is the name of chapter 24?
Al-Noor.
Very good. Chapter 24. So you can only imagine that Allah, He will talk about His Noor, His light. in that chapter. So it's very relevant. So Allah, He says in Surah An-Noor, chapter 24, verse 40, or the state of a disbeliever is like the darkness in a vast deep sea, overwhelmed with a great wave, topped by a great wave, topped by dark clouds, darkness one above another. So over here, Allah, He's saying that ظُلُمَاتٌ بَعْضُهَا فَوْقَ بَعْضٍ, that they will have darkness upon darkness. So over here, it was what? Nurun ala nur, light upon light, guidance upon guidance. Over here is darkness one above another. If a man stretches out his hand, he can hardly see it. That is how dark it is. If a person was to stretch out his hand, he can hardly see it. Meaning something as evident as his hand, which is a part of him, he still will not be able to see it. Something so close to him. So likewise, we can say that something that is just so common sense, something that is just so close to human predisposition, fitrah, they still will not be able to see it as evil or harmful or beneficial or good. They can't, because they are living a life which is darkness upon darkness. And then Allah, He says, and he for whom Allah has not appointed light, for him there is no light. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us from amongst those who is guided by His light. Now we know and we hear in the news in certain countries, some countries more than other countries, that there, especially during certain times of the year, that people commit suicide. It's usually around this time, I think. In places like South Korea, in places like China, in other places, they commit suicide. I'm not going to. I mean, it doesn't really make sense why they would commit, but from their perspective, they say, okay, all right, we know why. They try to look for a reason, even if it doesn't make sense. So anyway, people commit suicide. And one of the reasons they commit suicide, right, there can be many reasons. One of the reasons is that they have fallen into the darkness of depression. What they call depression darkness, in which they do not see any light at the end of the tunnel. That is one of the definition of depression darkness, where they have gotten into such a deep state of depression. Right, just to kind of let you guys know what is one of the definitions of depression. It's not just a state of sadness, it's a state of sadness without any hope. Are we allowed to be sad? Yes, we are. Is it normal to be sad? It's very normal to be sad. It actually develops a person in many ways. So sadness could be something that can be turned into a positive thing. However, what we are discouraged, and this is not from the quality of a believer, is depression. Why? Because now sadness is coupled with no hope. Were the prophets sad? Yes, we find prophets being sad. Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, was he not sad? Prophet Yaqub alayhi salam, Allah, He mentions in the Quran that he was, in Surah Yusuf, Yaqub alayhi salam, that he was so sad and he was crying so much that his eyes turned white, meaning he became blind. Yet we see that from the beginning till the end, what is he doing? He's always having hope in Allah. For 40 years they were separated, and for 40 years he was crying. But that cry was not a hopeless cry. That cry was full of hope. That cry was a sad cry. Do you guys understand? That cry was a cry that was full of sadness because he was sad for Yusuf alayhi salam. But you see in Surah Yusuf how he is still saying, I have hope in Allah. I complain only to Allah. I will ask only to Allah. I will turn only to Allah. You will see that throughout. So none of the prophets were depressed. Our own prophet, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he was sad on numerous occasions in his life. He was sad at the passing of his wife Khadija, of his sons, numerous occasions in which on the passing of his uncle Hamza radiallahu anhu, on the false accusation against Aisha radiallahu anha. He was sad, but he was never depressed. So that is something to note, that we are allowed to be sad, but we are not allowed to be depressed. And depression or depression, darkness, is a state where a person, he cannot see any light at the end of the tunnel. So these people, they go to therapy and they go for counseling. And what they seek to help them achieve is to see that light, to help them find that light, and to give them hope for life and happiness. Okay. Now, how are we encouraged? In addition to seeking modern interventions, such as seeing a counselor, seeing a clinical psychologist or psychiatrist, in addition to that, we should never lose hope and focus on the spiritual remedy for it. What is one of the spiritual remedy for it? For depression, for sadness? What is one of the spiritual remedy? This is one of the most beautiful dua that the Prophet ﷺ, he used to recite, and he told his ummah to recite it, to memorize it. It's rich in meaning. And the Prophet ﷺ said that it will remove anxiety and depression from any person who recites this. Allahumma inni abduka, ibnu abdika, ibnu amatik. O Allah, I am your slave. I am the son of your slave. And I am the son of your female slave. Nasiyati biyadik. My forelock is in your hands. Maadin fiyya hukmuk. Your judgment of me is a fact. Adlun fiyya qada'uk. Your trial of me is just. As'aluka bi kulli ismin huwa lak. I ask you through every beautiful name that you have. Sammayta bihi nafsak. That you have named yourself with. Aw anzaltahu fi kitabik. Or you have brought it, or you have revealed it in your book, i.e. the Quran. أو علمته أحدا من خلقك, or you taught to one of your creation, meaning the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. أو استأثرت به في علم الغيب عندك, or that you have kept hidden with you. Now this is a very important. Now the scholars, when they read this, when they analyzed this, What do you think that they extracted? Because we are talking about the names of Allah. So بِكُلِّ اسْمٍ هُوَ لَكَ, every name that you have named yourself with, or you brought it into the, or you revealed it in the book, i.e. the Quran, or you taught one of your slaves, i.e. the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, and that is the two sources that this book and this class is being based upon. That whatever I am bringing to you all is either from the Quran or from the Sunnah. But over here, Allah, He mentions something else. أَوْ اسْتَأْثَرْتَ بِهِ فِي عِلْمِ الْغَيْبِ عِنْدَكَ, or that you have kept hidden in the knowledge of the unseen with you. You have kept it hidden with you. What does that mean? That means there are beautiful names of Allah that we do not know of. And Allah does not have 99 names only. Allah has more than 99 names, and this is one of the hadith that proves it. In fact, just by analyzing these two sources, the Quran and the hadith, still Allah, He has more than 99 names. Still, Allah has more than 99 names. Just from the Quran and from the authentic hadith. If I was to include the inauthentic hadith, then you would have much more. Like, for example, throughout this class, there has been so far 2 or 3 instances in which I have not included those names of Allah, like Al-Ghani, for example. Last week we talked about the name of Allah, Al-Ghani, which means what? The self-sufficient, the rich. There is another name that is very similar to this name, which is Al-Mughni. Al-Mughni, which comes in the hadith, but that hadith is actually weak. And what does it mean? It means the enricher, the one who makes people rich, the enricher. So I did not include it. Why? Because when it comes to the names of Allah, we only take it from the Quran and we only take it from the authentic hadith. That's how we know Allah. We know Allah through authentic sources, not something that is dubious, that is suspect. Because then that would mean that our iman is doubtful. We believe, just like how you fast on a day in which you know this is the day of fasting, whether it's Ramadan or Ashura or Arafah. Why? Because we worship Allah with certainty. Just like how you pray your Dhuhr or your Isha Salah, knowing for a fact that the time has come in. So we worship Allah, we believe in Allah with certainty, not with I think so or there's some doubt in that. No, that is not how we worship Allah. Even though some scholars have made an excuse to use it, right? But still it is not justifiable. And that's why we are going to only talk about those names. And so that will go ahead and really restrict us from using those names that have not been authentically narrated to us. Yet, we still find that Allah has more than 99 names. And by the end of this, this course, inshallah, I think so far this is the 72 names so far. And we still have probably another 40 names, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe, yeah, about 40 names. This is the 72nd name of Allah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has more than 99 names that has been mentioned authentically in the Quran and in the Sunnah. And there are much more names that Allah has kept hidden with Himself. So after you've said all of this praise of Allah, what do you say? أن تجعل القرآن ربيع قلبي. Let the Quran, O Allah, make the Quran be a delight for my heart. وَنُورَ صَدْرِي, and a light for my chest. وَجَلَاءَ حُزْنِي, and the remover of my sadness. وَذَهَابَ هَمِّي, and the pacifier of my worries. O Allah, remove it from me. And this is a dua that you can find in the Fortress of a Muslim. Fortress of a Muslim, you can find this under the heading of removal of sadness and anxiety. We should always remember that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will never burden us with a test more than what we can handle. Allah will never do that. And when Allah does burden us with that which we can handle, Allah will never abandon us. What does that mean? That means when Allah does give us a test that we are able to handle, then you will always find the light of Allah through various means guiding you through that test. And we believe that 100% as believers. You can find it. Those verses of the Quran that you used to just skim through will actually now make more sense, or will make sense from a different perspective now that you read it once you are going through a particular hardship. You will never look at the bounties of Allah the same way after suffering the hardship of poverty, for example. So you will always find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will always be there, whether it is through His words, His Quran, His ayat, His signs, or whether it is actually Allah coming to your aid and your rescue and opening other doors that would have otherwise been shut for you, that you never knew existed, that you never knew would be open for you. And that is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He manifests Himself. So Allah, He is light, and if we get connected with Allah, we will be able to derive that spiritual, that divine light, that spiritual comfort and peacefulness that you cannot find in the physical sense. His light will guide our visions of things. You will see things completely from a different perspective. You will live your life exactly. You will know how to live your life and what you want from your life. And you will never be shackled by the trials that life throws at you. So how do we attain this light? After talking about the light of Allah and how beautiful it is and how it can guide you through your darkest days, how can we attain Allah's light? A few ways. One is in chapter 7, verse 157. So those who believe in Him, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, honor Him, help Him, and follow the light which has been sent down with Him, it is they who will be successful. So Allah, He described the Quran as a light. Many verses, I'm just only including one. So the Quran is a light from Allah. So Allah, He says, and those who believe in Him, honor Him, help Him, and follow the light which has been sent down with Him. It is they who will be successful. Also Allah, He says in chapter 6, verse 122, chapter 6, verse 122, is He who was dead and we gave Him life. What does life mean in this verse? Iman. So Allah is saying, is He who was dead and we gave Him life and set for Him a light whereby He can walk amongst men, like Him who is in the darkness of disbelief. So Allah, He's giving that comparison, that similitude, that a person that we gave life to and we gave him light, and that light helps him to walk amongst people, is he the same as a person who is in the darkness of disbelief, from which he can never come out? Are these two people the same? Thus it has been made pleasing to the disbelievers that which they were doing. That's why you kind of look at the disbeliever and you're like, how can you enjoy this misguidance, this balal, this kufr? How can you enjoy what Allah has how can you enjoy what Allah has made prohibited? How can you enjoy an act which no one except for Qawmi Lut has preceded you? This sodomy, this LGBT, how can you enjoy that? Yet Allah is saying, because they are living in a life of darkness, they don't know anything else. Thus it has been made pleasing to the disbelievers that which they were doing. When you think the darkness of uncertainty and hopelessness can't get any darker, remember this Arabic proverb. This is an Arabic proverb that one of my friends in Mecca, he told me. Sounds better in Arabic. It is darkest right before dawn. What does that mean? It is darkest right before dawn. Someone has their microphone on. What does that mean? It is darkest right before dawn. The darkest period in the night is before dawn. And what happens? Right after that peak of darkness comes that light of Fajr. And the person, he's able to see it. So when a trial comes upon any one of us, it doesn't come all of a sudden with all of its might. It comes one after another, after another, after another, where a person, he thinks he can't take it anymore. But the fact that he's saying he can't take it anymore, it means that he can actually take it more. And it keeps on piling and piling, and this burden of these trials and these difficulties that he's going through. Right when he feels that he absolutely cannot take it anymore, that is when the dawn, that light of hope comes, and he sees that. That's what it means. And there's another saying that says, happiness can be found even in the darkest of times when one only remembers to turn on the light. So all you have to do is turn on the light. Look at it from a positive, if that makes sense. Look at it from that perspective. There was one meme I was looking at, and it showed 3 contestants. They're all little kids, okay? And the winners. They show contestants and then the winners. So you have let me see if I can actually find it. It makes more sense. We makes more sense. It's just all on the mindset. So right here, it's amazing what technology can do. So look, can you guys see it? What does this picture tell you? A person who has come in third, which is, I mean, he's first place, yet he is crying because he's stealing the show. He's come in third place, and yet he's as if he's on top of the world, and as if he is the one that has actually won. And he's so happy about it that he has become a means. He has snatched away his happiness, right? And even so winning or happiness is all in the mindset. You will see people who, if happiness was in materialistic things, if happiness was in visual, you will find people who have the best view of the city or the ocean, or the most beautiful ornaments on their hands and the most beautiful watch and purse. You will see them being the most happiest, but it's not. If happiness was defined in terms of food, you will find that those people who spend 3,000 ringgits in one meal, they would be the most happiest, but they're not. It's all a mindset. How content are you with the qadr of Allah? So let's see if we can contextualize this, right? A person who is let's say he is making $1 million. Let's say, okay, he's making $1 million, and this person, he's making 1/3 of $1 million. Yet, if he's content, I'm always using these keywords, being content, because he could be content. And then not only would he be physically a millionaire, but he will be a millionaire in the heart as well. So let's say a person is making $1 million, this individual, and then another person is making 1/3 of that. Yet he is the one that is showing how happy he is with that. And we can see that. We can see it in our society. Right? You find some people who are making, let's say, 5,000 ringgits, and others who are making 1,500 ringgits a month. That's the minimum wage. And you will find some people being happy and content with that, having time for their family, having time for Allah, praying salah on time, making sure their obedience to Allah is not compromised, and so on. Anyways, coming back to our original. So that is what happiness is. All you got to do is just turn on the light. You know, there's another saying my teacher used to say, that if you forget how to smile, just remember it's under your nose. If you forget how to smile, just remember it didn't go anywhere. It's right under your nose, meaning you just got to turn that frown upside down or upside up. Okay? So ask Allah to always illuminate your heart, to guide it to that which is pleasing to Him. You please Allah, Allah will please you. Look at the prophets such as Ayub alayhi salam, Ibrahim alayhi salam, Yaqub alayhi salam, and our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. They all found joy and happiness knowing Allah is happy with their condition. Right? Ayub alayhi salam, in his adversity, in his trial, was he not enjoying it because he knew Allah was pleased with him in that condition? Ibrahim alayhi salam, sacrificing his son, he knew that it was hard for him. It was hard for him to sacrifice a son that he wanted for such a long time. He made dua for it. He grew up to love him, and then Allah told him to leave them in Mecca, and he has to go and spread the religion of Allah, and then come back when he's a young boy, around 10, 8, 12 years old. Now Allah is telling him that despite all of this, you have to sacrifice him. Ibrahim alayhi salam, it was hard knowing he has to do this, yet he found joy in obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, knowing that this is where the pleasure of Allah. When I was going to the farm to check out a few animals, I told the brother that I was going with, I said, it is recommended that we should actually buy an animal well in advance, a few days, if not more than that, well in advance before we slaughter it. Why do you think that hikmah is? We're trying to follow the footstep of Ibrahim alayhi salam when doing the qurban, the sacrifice. Why? Because you will go ahead, give it drink, give it food, take care of it, clean after it, pet it. Do all of these things. What's going to happen? You're going to start to love that animal. And affection will grow in your heart for that animal. I mean, come on, we have an affection and a love towards our pet, like cats and other animals that's haram for us to even eat, right? Like cats, and maybe, I don't know, some people may have squirrels, or not squirrels, the other ones. What are the other small little? Not chipmunks. Hamsters, yeah. Yeah, so hamsters, or even like bunnies and rabbits, which is halal for us to eat. But you develop that, or even small chicks and chickens and hens. You will develop that affection towards that animal. So when you're slaughtering it, what happens? You feel sorry for that animal, but you're doing it because it's a commandment of Allah. Just like how Ibrahim alayhi salam, he had that affection for his son. So we are feeling probably a minute, we're feeling that small affection, however small it may be, but yet that affection is still there. Nothing compared to what Ibrahim alayhi salam felt for his son, yet he was commanded to sacrifice him. I don't know here in Malaysia, maybe in the kampung, but I doubt it in the suburbs or in the city, that you are allowed to take, let's say, 10 days in advance and take it home, and you have a backyard. I don't know. Maybe you can. If you can, maybe you guys should do that at least once. They all found joy and happiness knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is happy with them. Allah, He says in chapter 39 verse 22, chapter 29 verse 22. So is one whose chest Allah has expanded to Islam, and he is upon a light from his Lord, like one whose heart rejects it. So now Allah is giving another example or another similitude, another comparison. A person, someone whose chest Allah has expanded to Islam, and he is upon a light from his Lord, like one whose heart rejects it, then woe to those whose hearts are hardened against the remembrance of Allah. Those are in manifest error. So Allah is cursing those whose hearts are hardened against the remembrance of Allah. And this tells us one way to get light of Allah in our hearts is through the remembrance of Allah. Through the remembrance of Allah. That's how you clean your heart, through the remembrance of Allah. I'll give you an example. So let's take this this glass right here as an example. And this glass resembles your heart, your soul. If this glass is completely dark, meaning you paint it with a black color or paint, and you try to shine a light through it, do you think it will come out? You won't see it. It can never penetrate it. Why? Because the glass is completely dark. It's black, and no light can penetrate it. Likewise, a person whose heart has become hardened, has become dark due to sins, and then a verse of the Quran says to do this, this is haram, you should not deal in riba, you should wear hijab, you should pray your salah on time, you should not lie, you should not cheat, you should not do this. You think that's going to penetrate through his heart? He's reading it, he's hearing it, he's told of it. It's not going to penetrate. So then the question is, how do you remove that darkness? One of the ways you can remove it is by remembering Allah. And what is the best way in that particular instance where you want to clean your heart? What is the best dhikr that a person can do to remove that darkness from his heart? Is by saying astaghfirullah. Constantly, just throughout the day, say it like 10,000 times, constantly. You're just doing your work and you're just saying astaghfirullah. You're driving, you're cooking, you're just walking, whatever it is that you're doing. Whenever you remember it, say astaghfirullah. The more you say, the more you are cleaning your heart, and then that heart, now light can go ahead and penetrate. Now some of us, we have a sick heart, a dark heart, and a healthy or a white heart. That's why we are able to understand and practice upon some of the verses or some of the commandments of Allah, but not all. So you will find a person who is praying, but yet he's cheating people. What does that tell you about his heart? His heart is, it's not completely sick. It's not completely darkened. So he's able to get the light of Allah through salah. So Allah, he remembers those verses. That light of the verse of the Quran is going through, saying you have to pray on time, give charity, give zakah. But yet, the other verses is just not going through. It's like a different language to him. It's just not sitting well. It's not well. It's not sitting in his heart. And that's why you will find other people trying to criticize them, saying, well, look, you are praying, you're going for Hajj and Umrah, but yet you steal, yet you cheat people. You shouldn't do that. Meaning you shouldn't be praying either. No, that's wrong. It's like saying, go ahead and paint your whole heart black. And no, that's wrong. You should continue praying. And the hope is that he will, with his increase, coupled with the increase of the remembrance of Allah, slowly but surely that person will go ahead and clean his heart. That's how you clean it. And then how do you beautify your heart? How do you beautify your heart? Make it smell good. Meaning, how do you beautify your good deeds? And whenever you do a good deed, people can see it from afar, even if you never advertise. Even if you never tell people about it. People know you are a person of the tahajjud. People know you are a person of the Quran, even if they've never seen you. How do you do that? By glorifying Allah and reading the Quran. That's how you beautify your iman. That's how you make it smell good. But we have a hard time trying to pick up the Quran. We can't read more than a page, 2 pages, half a juz. We can't read more than that. Is that what our life has turned out to be? That we can't read more than a page? Whereas the woman of the past used to read 10 juz a day. 10 juz a day. Where are they now? They're in the life well-pleasing. They were not career women. They were not women who were worried about their houses. They were not women who went out to please their bosses and trying to, no. That's why they are being mentioned in these books. In these, with such, like, look at our mothers, our grandmothers, our great-grandmothers. That's why we are who we are because of them. Because of them. We are who we are because of them. They concentrated on their duties towards Allah, towards their husbands. They brought up the future generation of Islam. Who are we bringing up? Who are we giving the tarbiyah to? So we find it very hard to read the Quran. Why? Because the light is not going through. And then you're like, but how do I get the light through the heart? How can I make my heart enjoy the Quran? You have to increase in the remembrance of Allah, specifically istighfar, asking Allah for forgiveness. These are the 10 days of Dhul Hijjah. Increase in that. Increase in La ilaha illallah. If you want to do a combination, astaghfirullah alladhi la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum wa atubu ilayh. A beautiful combination of La ilaha illallah, which is in Hadith Musnad Imam Ahmed, that this is what we should increase in that particular dua, and then trying to balance this. It doesn't matter. You can make La ilaha illallah on its own. You can say Astaghfirullah on its own. Do a combination of it. Say La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. And then you will see. Do that for 1 month. Let's do it. Let's make a intention. Right? Today is, I think, the 1st or the 2nd of Dhul Hijjah until the end. Let's make that intention. 10,000 astaghfar every day. Is 10,000 too much? Okay, let's do 1,000. Let's do 1,000. 1,000. Now, this is not, I'm not making a fard or sunnah, huh? Because the Prophet ﷺ said he does more than 100. And in fact, if we were to just exactly, strictly follow the sunnah, we would be doing 200. I'm saying because our hearts are just so black and so sick that we should do more than that, because we need a heavy dose of therapy right now. We need, you know, a person who comes into the hospital with all kinds of sicknesses. They're not just going to give him just a normal dose. Otherwise, I could have stayed home. Person who's severely anemic, they're not going to give him that, what I think is 350 milligrams over the counter iron. They're going to inject him with, or probably do a blood transfusion or something major, right? And I believe that we, given the situation we're in, given the fact that we have been away from Allah, from the masjids, all of that has an effect on us. All of it. Being away from the company of the righteous, the company of the angels, the company of those that can help us to remind, because of this pandemic, of course, and maybe other external and internal reasons. Just so preoccupied with the world. Sometimes we think this is it. And then when the lights turn off, you look back and you're like, it was like a blink of an eye. That's why the people on a day of judgment, they'll be like, we were in this world for a day or half a day. That's how they will see this life. So let's make this, you know, they always talk about a New Year resolution. Well, our New Year is coming in about a month. Our New Year is coming in about a month. Let's do, give me my tasbih. Give me my tasbih. I think it's there. Right there. So if you have something like this can help you do 1,000. So this is 100, and then you can count 1, 2, 3. I'm not advocating, and I'm not advocating for this. This is just a means for us to keep count. If you have other means of keeping count, then go ahead and use that, right? These things are not holy, like some people suggest, and they are not something that is a bid'ah, like the other side suggests. This is just something that we use in order for us to keep count. But if you have a tasbih like that, it will really help you in your adhkar. Anyway, moving on. Sometimes when we are going through these difficulties, okay, what we tend to do is we tend to try to control different aspects of our life, different aspects of that particular thing that is going on, right? We try to control this. Okay, you know, let's put a hold on this and make sure things don't get out of hand. Let's control this. And then next thing you know, you got too many attempts at too many other things trying to control. So sometimes we just need to surrender to Allah. Sometimes when we overthink, overdo things, that is actually not very healthy. We just need to let the qadr of Allah take its course. Things that are beyond our control, we should not try to attempt to control them. Leave it up to Allah. Make dua to Allah. Put your trust in His plans. That what Allah has plans for you is the best for you. What Allah has plans for someone else, that's the best for him. So something that Allah has given more of to someone else has not given to you. Why? Because it's good for him, not good for you. And then Allah hasn't given him what He has given you, or in the amount that He has given you. Whether it's children, whether it's wealth, whether it's marriage, whether it is prosperity, or even happiness. Even happiness. Imagine if a person was just happy, but that person will go ahead and forget about Allah. Whereas a person who is sad will be constantly remembering Allah. Okay? His dua, he will constantly be making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So one of the things that we can make dua to Allah, and this is a beautiful dua that the Prophet ﷺ used to make in his sajda. So it's worth our while that we should learn these prophetic du'as. And these are all words that you are all familiar with. So it's not something, one of the challenges of learning a dua is, like for example, I'll be honest with you guys, some of these maybe are a bit new words, like Rabi', Sadr, Jala, Huzn. Some of these words are probably Nasiyati. These are probably new words, so it will take a little bit more time for you to memorize this dua. But this one, these are all words that are very familiar. So there's two challenges. One, in any memorization, one of them is that learning new vocabulary or new words that you didn't know before. And the second one is trying to remember the order of those words in a sequence, so that way you know not to mix one ayah or one word with the other and so on. The sequence of it. So this one, we all know Allahumma, we all know ij'al fi, we use this all the time. Qalb, we all know what that means. That means the heart. Noor, you guys know that. And then everything is just being repetitive. Sam'a, right? Like Sami' Allahu, it's your hearing. Basar, it's your sight, and so on. And these are very similar words from the other du'as that you guys all recite on a daily basis. So what does this dua, what is this dua that the Prophet ﷺ used to ask Allah in his sajda? Allahumma ja'al fi qalbi nura, wa fi sam'i nura, wa fi basari nura, wa an yamini nura, wa an shimali nura, wa amami nura, wa khalfi nura, wa fawqi nura, wa tahti nura, waj'al li nura, or waj'alni nura. So it's a different narration. So this one, you don't say awqan, because this just means, or he said, meaning the Prophet ﷺ either said this or this. What does it mean? Oh Allah, put light in my heart, put light in my hearing, place light in my sight, put light on my right, light on my left, light in front of me, light behind me, light above me, and light below me. Grant me light or make me light. And this is one of the most beautiful du'as that the Prophet ﷺ taught us. This is in Bukhari and Muslim. And basically what you're saying to Allah, oh Allah, make this light penetrate my heart, so that way whatever command that you have told us to follow, I am able to see that light of wisdom behind it. I'm able to see it. Light in my hearing. Whatever I hear, it's not going to be backbiting or slander of others. It's going to be something which can be described as that is light. That brings light to a person. Light in my sight. I'm able to see what is right and wrong. Light on my right. Whatever I do, whether I go here, I go there, I go forward, I'm able to, if I go the right way, I'm able to see the light of it. If I go the wrong way, I'm able to see the light of that and turn around. If I go in front, if I go forward, I'm able to see. If I take a step back from doing something, I'm able to see that light. So you, oh Allah, put light all around me, surrounded. So whatever decision I make, whatever I do in life, all I do it in the guidance of your light. Guidance in your light. Grant me light or make me light. Make me a beacon of hope for others. Oh Allah, make me so not only am I having light, but I am such a light that I give others light. Like for example, a sun. A sun is a light and gives others a light. Whereas a moon, the moon does not give light. It reflects light from the sun onto itself, and then we are able to see it. For how many millions of years has the sun been burning, giving light? It is light. It gives light. So not only are you a person that's doing good, but you are also guiding towards good. And you are a source of light for others. Just make sure you don't burn. And what I mean by burn, not, oh, don't do so much so you don't burn. No. What I mean by burn is that make sure you don't give others light and then you forget yourself. Whereby you burn yourself while torching the path, torching the light for others. But yet you forget about yourself. Don't do that. Any questions? So just, oh, Al-Hadi. We don't have time. I've prepared for this, subhanAllah. This is one of the most beautiful names as well. So this is a beautiful dua. I just want you guys to take a note of this and recite it during these 10 days. You could put it, you could make a list of all the du'as that you'll be reciting, especially on the day of Arafah, the day that you'll be fasting. Just take a note of it. We'll go ahead and talk about this more. Allahumma inni as'aluka al-huda wat-tuqa wal-afafa wal-ghina. Oh Allah, I ask you for guidance, for righteousness, taqwa. See? Allahumma inni as'aluka al-huda, meaning hidayah, wat-tuqa, meaning taqwa, wal-afafa, meaning chastity. Oh Allah, give me chastity. Meaning, if you're not married, this is a good dua. Brother Basit. Who else? Brother Rayhan. Who else? I don't know, Ridwan. So, chastity, Make me chaste, O Allah. Wal-ghina, you know, al-ghani. Do you guys remember that? So this should be very easy for us to remember that. Allahumma inni as'aluka al-huda wat-tuqa wal-afafa wal-ghina. Make me self-sufficient. Not ghani meaning make me rich and make me, you know, crazy rich Asian or something. not that. Make me self-sufficient. That is the proper translation of ghina. So, inshallah, we'll cover this next time, but we ask Allah, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through His beautiful names, all of His beautiful names. اللهم إنا نسألك بكل اسم هو لك سميت به نفسك أو أنزلته في كتابك أو علمته أحد من خلقك أو استأثرت به في علم الغيب عندك أن تجعل القلوب قلوبنا أن تجعل قلوب أن تجعل القرآن ربيع قلوبنا ونور صدورنا وجلاء أحزاننا وذهاب همومنا وغمومنا. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to illuminate our ways, our path in seeking His pleasure. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us to His light, to give us the love of Quran, to give us the love of His obedience, to see the wisdom in every single act of obedience towards Him. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to enable us to follow the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and make it a light for us in this world and in the hereafter. May Allah make the sunnah of the Prophet a source of light for us. May Allah give us light on a day in which there is no light. May Allah illuminate our graves for us. May Allah illuminate the graves of our parents that have passed away, our grandparents that have passed away, all of our family members and all of the Muslims, all of our loved ones that have passed away. May Allah illuminate their graves. May Allah illuminate our faces on the day of judgment, seeing Him and looking at Him in happiness, and Allah looking at us with happiness and pleasure. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala illuminate our crossing of the bridge of Sirat, so we can cross it with the speed of lightning, so we can see His majestic light in Jannah. May Allah unite us. May Allah give us the power and the ability and the tawfiq and the guidance to use these 10 days in a manner that is well-pleasing to Allah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put barakah in our life and in our wealth. May Allah give us the good of this life and give us the good of the hereafter. Protect us all from the punishment of the grave. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give a righteous spouse to all those who are single. May Allah give them a spouse that will be the coolness of their eyes and the means of their success in this world and in the hereafter. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give righteous children to those who cannot have any. May Allah make their affairs easy. May Allah remove the hardship from every single one of us. Protect us from this pandemic. Protect all of the Muslims all over the world from this pandemic. May Allah remove the hardship and bring ease upon the Muslims suffering throughout the world. May Allah protect us in our countries. May Allah protect the Muslims here in Malaysia. May Allah make Malaysia a source of guidance for other countries to follow in good, and may Allah improve it in may Allah improve this country in other aspects. May Allah protect the Muslims and make them all come back to His religion. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك رب اغفر وارحم وأنت خير الراحمين